Good morning. Happy Sabbath. You made it. You guys are back. We missed you. Tahiti. I'm sure you hated every minute being there. Good. Welcome, everyone. We've got some friends from Alaska again visiting us. Very exciting. It's so neat to see new faces and old faces just coming together. Where's Josh? I know you're in here somewhere. So good. There you guys are. Church family, beautiful. So we are here together. We're gathered together in community. And here's the thing. I started to notice. I don't know if any of you noticed. Something big kind of happened this week. Kind of woke up to it. I didn't realize it was kind of a big deal. And what this thing that happened this week was that we have a new president. And I noticed that many people are divided. And I noticed a lot of tension on Facebook. And many of you noticed this too. It's like a train wreck and you just can't look away. It just keeps getting worse and worse on Facebook. And you think, can you just stop? Can we just take a peace treaty on Facebook for a day? Maybe a couple days? There's a lot of tension. And I think some of us, we still brought a little bit of that tension here in this room. And here's the thing. We are a community. We're made up of human beings. And we bleed the same way. We have emotions, we have feelings, we have thoughts, and some of our thoughts and emotions may not be the same. We may not all be siding with elephants or donkeys or whatever. But here's the reality. We are humans. We were made in the image of the divine. And today, as you are in this room, I want you to just breathe. I just breathe out the Facebook posts. Just do it with me. It's out. It's gone. Breathe out all of the fear or the anxiety or the in-your-face moments. Just breathe it all out. Breathe it out. Whether you're celebrating or mourning, whatever it is, breathe it out right now. Let's breathe it out right now. I want you to turn to the person next to you. Say, I love you. Turn to them. I love you. I don't care what political party you are. I love you. Hug them. Give them a hug. We need some hugs and some love in this room. Yeah. Good. Thanks. I got nobody. I want you to notice something that just happened. When we hug each other, when we step over those lines and we give each other love, when we share that experience, those things just kind of melt away, don't they? Sure, they're important in some ways, absolutely. But right here, right now, in this time, in this space, may we remember we have a bigger vision as a community. And that is to bring hope and repair to this world. That's our vision, to be an authentic expression of the kingdom of heaven. Let's not lose sight of that. And as a community together that loves each other, scraps a little bit with each other, hugs each other, may we remember that higher calling today. Before I begin this sermon entitled Mosh Pits, Conscientious Cooperators and Letters Home, let me pray with you. Lord, I want to thank you, praise you for allowing us to be here in community. We thank you that we come together and we do our best to figure out the mystery. And Lord, we only scratch the surface of who you are and the potential of humans, the potential you've given us. We're just scratching the surface, but let us keep scratching. Thank you, Lord. In your name we pray, amen. I have a friend, and he's a short little Asian guy. He decided he's going to go to a concert. It's a big show. And this music is a bit heavy. And some of you know this, in the late 90s, there was this pit that formed. It's called a mosh pit. And in a mosh pit, what you see is a bunch of grown people pushing each other, elbowing each other, and they're smiling often. You're like, what is going on? You're raging, but you're smiling? This is fun for you? And the music will get heavier and heavier, and they're just jumping around, and people are, they're crowd surfing. My friend, he went to the show, and he forgot. He made a huge mistake. He got a ticket for up front, and he thought, yes, I'll bring my camera. And there he is standing in the front with his camera, and he forgot about the mosh pit that will inevitably form when the music begins. And so as he's standing there, and the band gets up, and they start playing the heavenly distortion sound, people start to move. And my friend is, excuse me, excuse me. It's not proper etiquette in a mosh pit. That's what he's doing. He goes, and he's getting bumped around. I'm sure he didn't mean it. He's bouncing around like a little ping pong, bouncing. And before you know it, the music's up and people are jumping. And my friend said this dude jumped on his back. And he didn't stop there. He started climbing, my friend, until he was up on his head. And he jumps off of my friend's head into the crowd. And my friend falls to the ground and he loses his glasses. And if you know my friend Ryan, you'll know he is just blind without them. And so he does the one thing you never do in a mosh pit. He goes to the floor. I know some of you cringed when you saw it. He went to the floor. And when he went to the floor, he almost met his maker. Because people were kicking and moving and pushing. And he thought, I think I'm going to die. But as he was being pushed and kicked and he's seen his life flash before his eyes, it's going rather quickly, he sees his glasses, his crippled glasses. And he picks them up, puts them on, and he notices something. He sees the light on the floor for the first time in like many minutes. And he's no longer being jabbed and pushed and prodded. My friend Ryan, he looks up. And there in this little circle surrounding him are these large, hairy, tattooed men and women. And they are holding back the crowd. And Ryan kind of gets up. And he's looking. And he said he was blown away. Because there, even there in the midst of the mosh pit, Ryan experiences what we call Rahum, mercy. These men kept the wave back long enough to keep this little man safe. Mercy. Mercy has an interesting way of showing up in some of the weirdest places, doesn't it? Mercy. Mercy is this tenderness toward humanity. This ability to see things that are broken and long to fix them. That's what someone with the gift of mercy does. They see it, they're drawn to it, and they want to make a change. Mercy. Someone with mercy, those are the people I think I enjoy most in a crowd of people. They just bring life to everything. The merciful, they don't look at love as just some action or just some emotion. They see it as an action that we partake in every single day. Mercy. Some of you have been gifted with mercy. And I want to just share a couple qualifications, characteristics of people who have this mercy gift. And again, it's not all of us, but some of you have it. And I want to share with you what this looks like. People with the gift of mercy, they feel other people's emotions. You ever walk into a room and you're having a really crummy day? Some of you walked into church today and you thought, I don't even know if I can walk through those doors. I'm so tired. I'm so worn out. I'm so beat up over life. I just don't know if I can make it. And someone in here, hopefully, noticed you, and they said the uncomfortable. They said this, how are you? Did no one say that to you this morning? They asked you, how are you doing? How are you doing? Because here's the thing, those people, they notice when things are going wrong. They feel it. And when they ask you how you're doing, they're not actually looking for you to say, I'm fine. Because they know you're not fine. People with this gift of mercy, they'll ask it and they're annoying. Because you'll say, I'm fine. And they'll say, seriously, how are you doing? Right? Those people are annoying. And they're beautiful. And they are a gift from God to our community. How you doing? They actually care. They don't care about surface questions. I'm noticing something about myself, and I'm probably alone in this. But when I'm going through an issue, and I'm not wanting someone to bring it up, when I see those people with the gift of mercy, and I know some of you, and you will start walking toward me, you know what I'll periodically do sometimes? They're walking this way. I'll pretend someone's over in that direction and I will avoid you. Because I am so terrified that you're going to ask me that one question. And the question is, how are you doing? And if I say I'm fine, you're not going to buy it. And then I have to be open and honest and real. And all of a sudden now I have to do some interior work. All because you have this gift of mercy. Another thing, you have the ability to empathize with others. It's very easy to sympathize, isn't it? Oh, that sounds terrible. And then the person will walk away. But someone with the gift of mercy, they understand and they actually feel the emotion. You ever have this moment where someone asks you how you're doing and you're like, oh, terrible. And they look at you and you look at them and their facial expression takes on the same as yours? Because when you said it and you put that thing out there, what's going on, they felt it too. And their heart was breaking with yours. That's another element of this gift that some people have. Romans 12:15, rejoice when they rejoice, weep when they weep. That is some of you, and you're so good at it. It just comes naturally. You don't have to fake it. You literally are crying when we're crying, rejoicing, celebrating when you're celebrating. Alleviate pain. A person with the gift of mercy doesn't just recognize the pain, they actually have a desire to alleviate it. And so these people will sit with you, they'll have the conversations with you. Do you ever notice when you are that person and you're sharing this stuff, isn't it sad that we'll oftentimes use this phrase, I'm really sorry. Why do you think that is, that we apologize for our emotions and our experience? That person, they don't buy it though, do they? They say, you have nothing to feel sorry about. I'm with you. I understand. I empathize with you. You don't have to feel sorry. Don't tell me you're sorry for sharing who you are and what you're struggling with. Share it with me and I will live it with you. That's what people with the gift of mercy are able to do. Those people are a gift. Here's another thing. These people are really sensitive. And I used to think that people like this, they were sensitive and I would just kind of put them off. You know Nathan, he's sensitive. Again, I have to throw a jab at Nathan every time I'm up here because I love him. That person's sensitive. Don't worry about it. Because here's the thing. You'll be in a group of people and someone will make a response. They'll make a remark. And the remark, for some of you, you're cringing. You're like, did he have to say that? Did you have to throw that jab in there? And for that person, they're not even aware that that was a jab. But for the sensitive, merciful people, they hear it and they will stand up for it. They'll say, look, you can't say that. You can't say that thing. That thing is wrong on so many different levels. You can't say that because their heart broke when you made that comment that could be taken in a racial way. You made that comment that could be taken in a sexist way. You made that comment, and behind that comment, there is some brokenness, and they felt it, and they called it out. And in those moments, we need to recognize those people were able to hear something that we weren't, and rather than sit there and say, they're just sensitive, step up. They heard something you didn't, and own your words. If you need to apologize for something that you said to someone that may have had some things deeply embedded in it, you weren't aware of it, apologize, make it right. The sensitive, merciful people, they'll let you know. And it's your opportunity as a redeemer of this world to share it with them. Another thing I love about these people, they have great baloney meters. Your children are safe here. They smell it, don't they? They'll see a political campaign. They'll see a person standing up front talking. They'll see advertisement. They'll hear certain things. And they're the people that will say this. Something doesn't seem right with that. Something doesn't smell right. Something in my heart just tells me this isn't going the right direction. Those people, they're just sensitive. Again, they're sensitive to it. They pick up on it. And sometimes those people are hard to deal with, because their voices cause us to have to sometimes change. I've met leaders, they're terrified of these voices. Because these people who have these strong baloney meters, They will share certain things. And if we simply listen but don't act, then we are doing a serious disservice to these people. When your friends share something with you, and it's coming from the heart, and they're not the people who are just doing this to make you feel bad or trying to take power. Those people are bullies. You know who they are. But the people who deeply care about you, they will share that thing, and you have an opportunity now to listen and consider it. Let it marinate for a bit. When you choose not to, that's when we head in paths that move against wisdom and knowledge and direction toward life. Take time to listen to the merciful people. They'll share with you some interesting things you may not have picked up on before. Last, merciful people have deep relationships. Here's what I like about merciful people. Have you ever invited people to a party and you thought, now that they're here, I don't know that they even care about being here? They'll sit there in the party like this. Because you know what's going through their mind. Well, I would do this differently. You call that, I don't know what kind of food you eat. I don't know. You call that this? Oh, I could make that in my sleep. Those people, those are painful to have at a party. But you know the people that I love at the party? I love having the merciful people there. They are the people that are there because they want to be there. They're there and they're fully present for you in that moment. They want to be at the party. And so they're a joy to be around. Those people have deep friendships. And those are the people we need to hold on to most, the deep friendships. They know how to go beyond the surface into deep, deep discussion, deep reality. I love these people. People with this gift of mercy. There's such a joy in this world, but there are some warnings I'd like to share. Just a couple thoughts before we move into the next point. I often have people talk about justice and mercy. The two coincide. Would you all agree that in this world right now, there's a lot of good, there is a lot of injustice as well? Would you agree with that? I hear people talk all the time, we just need more justice. And I'm learning to ask, what kind of justice? Well, we need to do this and this and this. And I'll often think, that doesn't sound like justice. That kind of sounds like revenge. It kind of sounds like vengeance. Because here's the thing I'm learning about justice and mercy, is that you cannot have the one with the other. And if you do, you end up with brokenness. And so understand this, justice without mercy is vengeance. Justice without mercy is vengeance. When you choose to hurt someone, or you choose to seek, again, this word justice actually means restoration. If you're looking to find repair, but you don't have mercy, you're going to cause a train wreck. And people will be hurt. Justice without mercy is vengeance. It's vengeance. It's revenge. And we have enough revenge in our world, don't we? And this is where people oftentimes, they'll begin to get a picture of God this way. God is all about justice. Well, consider Jesus for a moment. Jesus' message was love your enemies. Jesus' message was turn the other cheek. His justice was redemptive justice. It always brought about repair because mercy guided it. Is your justice that you're seeking guided by mercy or anger? Next, I would argue this as well. Mercy without, I put redemptive justice. Again, in our culture, I think we get it skewed. Mercy without redemptive justice is chaos. You can be super nice to someone and very merciful, but if you don't call them to a higher way of living, you've done them a huge disservice. Yes, show mercy. Let love guide you, but help bring that person to an elevated, better way, a more human way of living. When you move from chaos into redemption. Mercy without redemption, mercy without redemptive justice looks like chaos. And we have enough chaos. Let me ask you this question. Can you have mercy without the understanding of the value of your life? Can you have mercy without first loving yourself? People come to me often, especially lately since I've been talking about it a little bit. They'll say, what do you do with this idea that we're all evil, sinful, decrepit, and we only and always will choose the wrong thing, original sin? You were born this way, you're evil, you're bad. And I have to stop for a moment and consider this. Because for the Hebrew scholars, they say it a little differently. It's a little twist. They say, no. You are not broken, evil, depraved people who will always and only choose the wrong path. You are incomplete people growing into your humanity. Incomplete people needing wholeness. And when I understand that, juxtaposed to this idea of original sin, what begins to happen is this. I can then begin to have mercy for myself. I can look at myself and actually love the person and the potential that God has given me. But if I always look at myself as evil, decrepit, needing rescue rather than wholeness, then how in the world, if I can't offer myself mercy and myself love, how can I offer it to you? So if I go that direction, my justice will always be with my sword. But if I understand I deserve mercy and love, I can love myself and I can love you, then what spills out of me is going to be a Christ-like, lamb-like love. And that's what the world needs right now. We don't need more beastly empire. We need lamb-like love. And God is calling us all to, whether you're this political place or this political or this religious or whatever it is, we can all join together in that. Let that unify us. Here's some warnings I have for you. Sometimes someone that's very merciful, I don't know anything about this. They'll get really riled up over something and they'll die on every single hill. They'll lose sight of their vision, right? Dan is laughing right now, I think. I can't tell. He's laughing a little bit. Because he knows. That person. And sometimes he is one of the most kind people. We got to get this working, folks. This microphone is, are we going to be good? Okay, here's my passion showing. I will have these moments with Dan. I'm going to bring this up. I hope you're okay with it. Okay, good. I'll have these moments where I'm like, no, we can't do this. Ah! And I'll lay into him. And what he'll do? Lamb. He'll sit there and he'll go, okay, I hear you. I think you need a little time to think about this one. Damn. And then I will. And I'll go back and say, there's some wisdom there. You're right. Sometimes our passion, in our frustration, we jump before we look where we're going. And we lose sight of the vision and the goal that we had, the higher calling God has called us to. I've heard people say this about Jesus. Said, well, Jesus got mad. He lost his cool. He overthrew the tables in the temple. He was so mad. I want to point this out to you. This is not Jesus losing his cool. Jesus is making a statement, one that he has made all throughout his ministry. And it's one that continues to culminate. And when he gets to the holiest place there for the Jews, he knows where this is heading. And he's accepted it. For instance, when you look in Mark, right before this story, when Jesus is overturning tables, you have this really awkward story about a fig tree. Jesus is hungry, and he goes and he sees a fig tree, and the fig tree has no figs. And Jesus is frustrated, right? Perfect. Have you ever read that story? That's a weird story, right? What do you do with it? Here's something really fascinating about that story is Tyler's touching my butt. This or this? This? What's really fascinating about this story is Jesus here is making another political, religious statement. If you saw someone burning the American flag, killing an eagle, you would say, what are you doing? That's wrong. That's not patriotic. That's terrible. The fig tree, to the Jewish people, it was a symbol for the Jewish temple. Think about this. You as a temple, you as a religious system are called to bring people nourishment and life. But you as a religious structure are dead. There's no life in you. You are not spreading any kind of life. And so Jesus is sharing these statements, and he knows where this is going to end. He knows it's going to end on a hill, on a cross. And for Jesus, that hill was worth dying on. But for my friends that are merciful and passionate, is the hill that you're about to die on worth dying on? Have you let the thing marinate enough? Or do you need to give it some time and some space before you stand, flag raising, guns firing, dying on the hill? Some of you, the answer is yes. And your rage against the machine will happen, and you will walk in the footsteps of great leaders. Others of us need to step back, re-examine, and make sure we understand the hill before we die on it. We need to consider our emotions first. The next thing I would argue, sometimes merciful people have a tendency to be weak and indecisive when there's conflict. This is difficult. We have this statement, show grace to everyone, everywhere, every time. But what does that look like in the face of conflict? What does it look like when you have someone that is an absolute terror to everybody else? What do you do when you have this issue come up? Do you stand? Do you deal with it? Or do you step back and say, no, I don't, what do you do with it? I've seen some people take it head on and say, we're going to deal with this. The merciful thing is to act, but we act how? Lamb-like. I've seen other people step back and let the thing just train wreck. Merciful people need to remember, sometimes mercy is flipping the table over, but doing it in a loving way in order to bring repair and restoration. The table still needs sometimes to be flipped. The decision sometimes needs to be made. Sometimes you got to flip the table, but you got to do it with love and compassion and mercy. Last one. You merciful people, you got to give us space sometimes. Because you know what I'm talking about, you folks that are merciful. You walk into the room and you just sense us, and all you want to do is hug us. Like that Elmira cartoon. I'll hug you and squeeze you and love you. And our eyeballs are popping out. Sometimes the broken in the community, we just need a little space every once in a while. Sometimes we don't need the heavy conversation right now. Sometimes all we need is just a hug. We need sometimes for you to use your wisdom to know when to give us hugs and when to ask the deep probing questions. There's a time for both. But sometimes we need a little space. Remember that. People with this gift, you are an absolute joy to have in this community. And your reward, we're told in Luke, is great. It's not a someday reward, it's a present one. And I see it every time the merciful begin to take action. Because when the merciful are doing beautiful things in community, you see them just glowing. There is life and they're spreading it all around. This reward that the writer of Luke is sharing is one to be experienced now. It brings value and hope to everyone around you. And we desperately need you to be the Christ follower you're called to be, to stand in the face of injustice, to smile, to bring us along, to ask us the deep probing question. I saw this movie this weekend, Hacksaw Ridge. How many of you did? Incredible. Wasn't it weird to watch like Adventist culture a little bit? I found it interesting that he went to the movie theater though. I thought, I don't know if Desmond Doss went to the movie theater. Maybe.
But I watched this movie and I thought it was really interesting. And what really inspired me was, here's a man who stuck to his convictions. He said, life is more important than vengeance. Life is more important than death. I want to support my country, but I have made this conviction, a personal one, that I'm not going to carry an arm. I'm not going to carry arms. And that was a personal thing he decided. And so he goes into war. And before that, what was really fascinating about this movie is that these men, his own people within his own group, they are beating him mercilessly. He's being treated terribly by his own government, put on trial. And not once do you see this man turn around angrily and fight back. And then on that ridge there in this movie, what you see is so powerful. He lowers down 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, over 75 men, some of them the enemies that day. He recycles hate with love. And he lowers down all of these men. And in that moment, he gives us the perfect picture of the cross, doesn't he? When the divine dances, when our humanity dances with the divine, there is mercy that spills forth. And in that mercy, you see all of these men whose lives are saved, even though he had to deal with so much hate and persecution. That is what the merciful do. In the face of hate, in the face of punishment, vengeance, they share hope, they show mercy. I have this last thing I want to read you. It is by far one of my favorite letters I've ever read from an individual. I've read this about 1.5 years ago, but I thought, man, I think I want to do it again. It's so good. Christian Deschard. Deschard? I got it right this time. This individual, he was a Catholic French monk doing amazing servant ministry, reaching the Muslim world in Algeria. He saw these people not as enemies, but friends. And this man did everything he could to bring hope and repair to these people around him. But tensions got so high there in Algeria that they had to fly everyone out. And this beautiful individual said, I will not go. These people around me are so beautiful. They are my friends. Even though some of them don't even know it yet. They're my friends. I choose to show mercy. I'm not going to run away. I'm going to stay right here with my friends. And he wrote this letter to his family and friends, knowing this is probably going to be the end. And here's the letter that he wrote. And I'm just going to read it to you. If it should happen one day, and it could be today, that I become a victim of the terrorism which now seems ready to encompass all foreigners living in Algeria, I would like my community, my church, my family to remember that my life was given to God and to this country. I ask them to accept that the one master of all life was not a stranger to this brutal departure. I ask them to pray for me, for how could I be found worthy of such an offering? I ask them to be able to associate such a death with the many other deaths that were just as violent, but forgotten. My life has no more value than the other, nor any less. In any case, it is not the innocence of childhood. I have lived long enough to know that I share in the evil which seems, alas, to prevail so much of the world. Even in that which would strike me blindly, I should like, when the time comes, to have a clear space which would allow me to beg forgiveness to my fellow men. And at some time and at the same time forgive with all my heart the very one that would strike me dead. I could not desire such a death It seems to me important to state this. I do not see, in fact, how I could rejoice if this people I love were to be accused indiscriminately of my murder. It would be to pay too dearly for what will perhaps be called the grace martyr, to owe it to an Algerian, whoever he may be, especially if he says he is acting in infidelity or fidelity to which he believes to be Islam. I know the scorn with which the Algerians as a whole can be regarded. I know also the character of Islam, which a certain kind of Islamistic encourages. It is too easy to give oneself a good conscience by identifying his religious way with the fundamentalist ideologies of the extremes. For me, Algeria and Islam are something different. They are a body and a soul. I have proclaimed this often enough, I believe, in sure knowledge of what I have received in Algeria, in the respect of believing Muslims, finding there are often so many truths of the gospel I learned at my mother's knee, my very first church there with these people. My death clearly will appear to justify those who hastily judge me as naive or idealistic. Let him tell us now what he thinks of it. But these people must realize that my most avid curiosity, will be satisfied. This is what I shall be able to do, if God wills. Immerse my gaze in that of the Father, to contemplate with him his children of Islam as he sees them, all shining with the glory of Christ, the fruit of his passion, filled with the gift of Spirit, whose secret joy will always be to establish community and to refreshen and refashion the likeness, delighting in the difference. For this life given up, totally mine and totally theirs, I thank God, who seems to have wished it entirely for their sake, of that joy in everything, and in spite of everything, I give you this thank you. And you also, my friend, in my final moment, who would not be aware of what you were doing. Yes, for you also I wish this thank you, this adieu, to commend you to be to the God who sees your face and loves you, whose face I see in yours. May we find each other as happy thieves in paradise someday. The merciful in our group, we need to help lead us. We need you to lead us in the repair and the restoration of this community, of this world, of us as a group. We need your love and your mercy to guide us as we repair and change the world. We need your voices. Please let your voices rise. Don't be silent. We need you to help us learn how to be merciful and loving to one another, even in conflict. I am so thankful for the Christian de la Chars. So thankful for so many of you who are willing to step up and say, this thing doesn't feel right, it needs change, and are willing to hug and embrace us through it all. May we as a church begin to love and act and move and change, allowing mercy to be our guide.